Hi, I'm Ruggero from One Foot in the Door, and I've got another question from Lucky Luke Productions. And Lucky Luke asks, can you tell me how to direct the same line but with different intent and action verb for it? Now, for those of you who don't know, the action verb is something that actors do and directors use to basically make the line more interesting, to flesh out what the line is really about. It's kind of the objective. So what are you trying to achieve with this line? So for example, if the line is a question, all right, what did you do yesterday? Okay. The actor goes through the script and will think, okay, what do I want to achieve by asking this question? And then they put an action verb, which can be, questioning or interrogating, or to question, to interrogate, or to test maybe. It will all depend on what the subtext is. So in a way, it is a way to flesh out what the subtext is and to give actors a specific thing to try and do with that line. Now, it can be very useful. Personally, when I was an actor, I never found it really worked for me to do what some actors do, which is they really go through the whole script, and for each single line or even half a line, sometimes one sentence at a time, they write action verbs beside it. I always found it was a bit limiting and a bit too intellectual as a process, because it kind of becomes having to memorize two scripts, so what I'm saying and how I'm playing it, and then it also kind of limits the way you can play with it. It sort of limits the interaction with the other character, and I do prefer that whatever happens from how I'm interacting with the other character. So as a director, because I didn't like it too much as an actor, as a director I tend not to use this too much. However, sometimes it is very useful. So when is this useful? Exactly, Lucky Luke's question, which is, how do you direct a line, so the same line but in different ways? So you do that obviously when the line is not working. So you're rehearsing a scene or you're shooting, and there's one specific line that is just not working. So the first thing you need to do is, if you want to direct it, is you need to understand why it's not working. And that's tricky. Sometimes it is tricky. Sometimes it's just like, I don't know, something's not right. So one thing I found for myself, usually lines don't work because they're not high stakes enough. Obviously, in scenes that do require high stakes. So let me make an example. You have two characters and they're discussing something, and there's the main gear change of the scene, the main information is being said, and that is what kind of the scene is about. So this piece of information, the reaction to that piece of information, but the actors sort of just power through the lines, they say them all, and then you get to the end, you're like, well, what the hell happened? Sure, the story was more or less being said, but it didn't feel important. That one moment didn't feel important enough. So if that's the case, you can try and give an action verb for the specific moment. What I find works better is to talk to your actors and try and describe in a clearer way why this moment is important, what it is that makes it really strong. So for example, I directed a scene a few years ago, and I remember there was this father and son scene. The father used to be a hooligan, used to be quite violent, ended up in prison, reformed, now he's out, and he sees his son going down his same path. So they have this conversation when there's a lot of resentment from the son and stuff. So the father tries to reach out to him, and the son just doesn't want to hear it, So we did the scene, we rehearsed it, and again, it wasn't quite, it was fine, but it wasn't quite working. So I stopped them and I asked the actor who was playing the son, so what do you think is happening in this scene? And he was like, well, he's angry. He's angry at his father for all these things. And I was like, yeah, but there's more to it. And I told him, this is the moment when you become your father. I know that's super cheesy. I know. Your father. No. The point is, saying it in this kind of epic way, something that's really like, whoa, it helps the actors really kind of understand how important this moment is. And it puts them in the right mindset. So sometimes it's about sort of giving them a bit more context about the character. And this is something that, if depending on the script, it might be stuff that you already know, that you had already thought about, or it can sometimes be stuff you come up with in the moment, really. But just to give them a bit more, to help them get into that character a bit more. So I don't know, you might tell someone, you've always wanted children, but you can't have them. So you look at this other character and you see the daughter you never had, and you try and reach out to her because of this feeling. For example, whatever the scene is, whatever the scene requires. So that can be quite a good way to give them more context, help them feel how much more important that scene is. It might work, it might not work. Now, if this doesn't work, you might want to try, some action verbs. So for action verbs, you need to be a bit creative with the words. As in, you can find lists of action words, but they don't really mean anything. So it really comes down to you as a director understanding what it is that is not working in the scene, so that you can help the actor understand it and give a performance that will fulfill what you need. Okay, so one that I use quite a lot is, for example, begging or threatening in lines that are not obvious. We're talking subtext here, okay? So if the line is, I beg you don't do this, I don't tell them you need to be begging. Duh, that's obvious. But, it could be something different. It could be just something like, I don't know, I'll sign the contract. I'll sign the contract. Just don't fire me. That's quite obviously a begging one, okay? But sometimes even if it's less obvious, depending on the situation, going proper begging, you're on your knees begging, or it can be something completely different. It's like you're facing up to her, you're insulting her. You're trying to find verbs that are quite strong and give a strong image. So again, it's more than just you're asking. What the hell does that mean? They're bland. They're not. Again, it's a bit difficult to give you. There's no one size fits all because it really depends on the scene. But as I said, it's not really about you learning lists of possible words. It's about you understanding what you want and why is that line not working. If this also doesn't work, there is one last thing that you can try. Well, there's two last things you can try. And this one is what I call the Nero technique. I made a video about it. I'll put it in the comments down below. Sorry, in the details down below. This works quite well with beginners, with amateurs, or sometimes with actors that are very stuck in a certain way of saying the lines, for example. And what it is literally ask them to repeat the line over and over and over and over again, every time different. And then in post-production, you pick the best one. You can't do it for the whole script, but if it is literally one line that doesn't work, it's a last resort, guys. It's not a good way to work, because then it can actually become difficult in post-production to make it make sense. So one thing I would recommend, and we did this actually in Creation, my award-winning short movie. Again, you can find it in the details down below if you want to watch it. There was one. The actors I had were amazing, really amazing. Sean Altman and Ben Coulter, big shout out to them guys, amazing work. So we rehearsed for 2 days, and there was this one moment when the two characters see each other for the first time, and she had to say this line, which is, "I want sex." Watch the movie, it'll make sense. It's not creepy, it's quite funny. So we tried different approaches to make it funny. It's a funny moment, that one. But nothing was quite clicking, nothing was quite working. So I literally got to the point I was like, okay, Sean, just say the lines like 10 times, different every time. Or just keep saying it different. And so she tried this and this and this, and then something was like, boom, that's it. Do it again. So then we rehearsed the whole scene with that same, not the line reading per se, but sort of the intention behind that line reading. And it really worked, it really clicked. So then we said, okay, that's how we're doing it. So we also changed a bit what he was doing in reaction to this. And it really worked. And it really worked. Again, you can watch the movie if you want to see what we did with that. So that's, for example, another way to do it. So repeat the line over and over and over again in many different ways, either in rehearsal to find something interesting, or if it's really not working, really running late, you can do it whilst you're shooting and then pick the best one in post. Not a great solution, but you know, if it's really not working, better than nothing. Another thing you can do, again, this is more like if they get stuck, and this is especially when actors get too stuck in a certain way of saying the lines. And this happens very often, you know, especially if they're prepared, they come in and you start rehearsal and they start saying the lines in one specific way every time. That's not very good. That's not very good. I always try and tell them not to do that. I always try and do exercises to shake them up. Because what happens is that even though it might be a good interpretation, it gets stale really fast. Because, you know, by the time you rehearsed it 3-4 times and then you start shooting and you do again and again and again, you get to the close-up and it feels just blah. It doesn't work. So what I tell them usually is to just, you know, have fun. Tell them, you know, just do it literally. You can tell them, just do it different. But it's not a great direction. So you might want to, before that, you might want to say, look, I just want to shake things up a bit. I like it. I like what you're doing. I just want to see if we can find something else that works better. So just tell them, you know, do it completely different. Do it, you know, whatever. And again, see, that might shake them up and you might get something really cool. It might not work. So it depends. In general, as I said, it's better if you can identify as a director why something is not working, and you can then help them through action verbs or through describing the situation more in detail for them. You can help them give exactly what you need. If you're not sure, you can just try and shake things up and ask them to try different things and then see what happens. That's how I would approach, that's how I usually approach this. What would you guys do? What have you seen, you know, have you worked with directors that, you know, use different methods for this? Are you a director yourself? What have you done before? Let me know a bit in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this. And again, if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about, leave a comment down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.